The Galactic Council convened in their grand chamber, a colossal structure floating in the void, where the most advanced species dictated the fate of the universe. Today's agenda was the Xarth Dominion's relentless conquest. The Union had suffered heavy losses, and the war was reaching new frontiers. A minor footnote in the discussion was Earth, an isolated, primitive world that the Union had dismissed long ago. The humans, they believed, were an anomaly, barely out of their infancy, still reliant on combustion engines and archaic warfare. Their technological level is insignificant, one of the representatives scoffed. They are aggressive, yes, but undisciplined. They have no place in this war. Another nodded. By the time they achieve interstellar travel, the war will be long over. They are not a factor, yet Earth had found itself in the crossfire. The Xarth Dominion, ever expanding, had plotted a course that now included the human homeworld. The Union debated whether to intervene, but resources were stretched thin. Earth, with no advanced fleet, no interstellar weapons, was deemed a lost cause. The humans would be eradicated before they even knew what had hit them. The Xarth themselves barely considered it a military operation. It was an extermination. Their forces arrived in orbit with calculated precision, scanning the planet below, expecting no resistance worth mentioning. The directive was simple: eliminate, subjugate, and move forward. The usual pattern applied: shock and awe tactics, overwhelming firepower, and the destruction of key infrastructure. The first bombardments targeted major cities. Towers crumbled, streets were reduced to molten slag, and chaos erupted. The Xarth, cold and methodical, anticipated immediate surrender. But something was off. The expected signals of submission never came. No desperate pleas for negotiation. No panicked diplomatic transmissions. Instead, the first real transmissions intercepted by the Xarth were strange, encrypted messages bouncing across the planet, military coordination far more structured than anticipated. The initial ground forces deployed with standard procedure: land, establish control, neutralize resistance. They expected scattered, disorganized combatants. What they found was unlike anything in their strategic models. Within hours of landing, Xarth forces encountered resistance. Fast, brutal, and utterly unpredictable. Humans did not fight like any species in the Union. Their combat tactics ignored conventional doctrine. Civilian centers weren't passive targets. They became kill zones. Cities weren't just falling, they were traps. The Xarth warships in orbit observed their ground forces encountering an escalating problem. Attacks weren't localized. Human resistance was everywhere. Every street, every ruined building, every tunnel was a new battlefield. Their forces were being struck by weapons they didn't even know humans possessed: makeshift railguns, experimental explosives, cyber warfare that disabled targeting systems. This wasn't a planetary invasion. This was a bloodbath. The Galactic Council, still watching from afar, received fragmented reports. Confusion rippled through their ranks. A primitive species should not have lasted this long. The Xarth had underestimated Earth, and they were about to pay for it. The Galactic Council had never seen anything like it. What was supposed to be a routine extermination had turned into a military disaster. Reports flooded in from their observers. Humanity was not just resisting. They were winning. The Xarth were losing ships, soldiers, and morale at an alarming rate. Entire battalions had been wiped out, not by overwhelming firepower, but by relentless, unpredictable attacks that no strategy could counter. The Union had dismissed humanity as warlike but unsophisticated. Now they saw something else, an enemy that adapted faster than any known species. Unlike other civilizations that crumbled under Xarth pressure, humanity had no single point of failure. They had no centralized government dictating surrender, no supreme commander whose death would end the war. Their resistance was fragmented but coordinated, driven not by orders, but by sheer will. Terror spread through Xarth ranks. Humans fought without the fear of death, executing tactics that defied logic. They struck in the dead of night, using thermal cloaks to evade detection. They poisoned enemy supply lines with biological agents tailored to Xarth physiology, something they shouldn't have been able to do in such a short time. Their ability to wage psychological warfare was unmatched, broadcasting footage of captured Xarth commanders being interrogated, feeding false intelligence into enemy channels, even leaving haunting messages scrawled in alien blood. The Xarth had never fought an opponent like this. Most species surrendered after orbital bombardment. If not, they fell apart after losing their leadership. Humanity did neither. The more ground the Xarth took, the more dangerous the war became. No occupied zone was truly under their control. Every city, every ruin, every stretch of wilderness became a new front. The Galactic Union, once passive observers, began to reconsider. Some saw Earth as a lost cause, but others recognized the truth. This war was no longer about conquest. It was about survival. If the Xarth couldn't defeat a single primitive species, then what did that mean for the balance of power in the galaxy? Union reconnaissance drones captured shocking footage. Xarth soldiers abandoning their posts, their morale shattered. Commanders arguing over retreat strategies. High-value Xarth assets destroyed by human weapons that shouldn't exist yet. Even Xarth warships in orbit were beginning to retreat, their captains unwilling to send reinforcements into what had become a planetary meat grinder. In hushed conversations, Union diplomats debated their next move. They had expected Earth to be wiped out. Now they had a choice: step in and form an alliance, or stay back and watch as humanity reshaped the war on its own terms. For the first time, the question wasn't whether humanity would survive. It was how far they would go. The Xarth had underestimated them. The Union had ignored them. Now, both sides were realizing a terrifying truth. Humanity wasn't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win.